Hey everyone, and welcome to a new episode. Today we're going to look at what is positivism, so let's get started. Let me start this video with a quote from John Stuart Mill, and then we lines talk about what it means. The whole object of the social contract is to lay down some fundamental rules for the guidance of human conduct. Criminal law defines what is forbidden or an act that is prohibited by law under threat of punishment. Civil law, on the other hand, deals with disputes between individuals, organizations, or both, and defines what remedies are available when someone suffers harm at the hands of another person. It is based on the idea that we should only believe in things that we can observe and verify through experience. It is the dominant school of thought in Western philosophy since the beginning of the 20th century. The first point is that the only source of knowledge is sense experience. A child from a colder country would have a different theory about snow based on their observations. Positivists think that there are some beliefs that we hold that are based on non-observable things. They call these beliefs metaphysical beliefs. The scientific method is simply a systematic way of making observations and formulating theories about the world. For example, if you notice that every time you walk outside, you get wet, you will formulate a theory that says if you walk outside, you will get wet. Then you will test this theory by walking outside. If you get wet again, you will maintain your theory. Take the sentence "after I die, I will feel no pain," and therefore we should reject them, and that the scientific method is the best way of acquiring knowledge. Positivism has had a tremendous impact on our lives today. For example, most of our laws are based on positivism. Just think about it. What is a crime? An action that is prohibited by law. And what is a law? A set of rules that is created by legislators based on observations about what makes a society function. Or take science. All scientific progress is based on positivism. Scientists are constantly making observations about the world and formulating theories. They reject theories that are not supported by evidence and keep the ones that are. This sentence is meaningful because we can clearly define what it means. Also, if you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, please subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Positivists would argue that this is a better sentence than "after I die, I will go to heaven." Why? Because the former has a clear meaning, whereas the latter is meaningless. If you don't get wet, then you reject your theory and come up with a new one. This is what we mean by science. An example of a metaphysical belief is the belief in an afterlife. It is impossible to observe an afterlife, so it is a non-observable thing. It is better than other ways of gaining knowledge such as intuition or revelation because it is more reliable. According to positivists, there are some meanings that are also meaningless. Let me explain. Let's take the sentence "after I die, I will go to heaven." What does "I will go to heaven" mean? How are you going to go to heaven? Are you going to travel to it? Are you going to be teleported there? Will you fly there? The point is, this sentence does not have a meaning, because going to heaven does not have a definition. The same goes for "there is a God." What does "there is a God" mean? Is God a person? If he is a person, what does person mean? Does it mean that he is made out of flesh and blood, or is God a being of pure energy? Does this mean existence in time, or does it mean something else? The point is, the sentence "there is a God" is meaningless because God is an undefined term. And a meaningful statement must have a clear definition. According to Comte, who coined the term positivism, the scientific method has three main characteristics. First, it is based on observation. Second, it is systematic. And third, it is verifiable. Positivism holds that only statements that are verifiable are meaningful. Therefore, a statement like "there is a God" is meaningless. Why? Because it is impossible to verify the statement. Even though billions of people across the world hold this belief, it does not make it true. According to positivism, we should only believe in things that we can observe. And since it is impossible to observe an afterlife, we shouldn't believe in it. Therefore, there is no universal theory about snow, but only different particular theories. The same goes for everything else in life. According to positivists, the only thing that we know exists for sure is our sensations. Our observations tell us that it is raining outside now. It doesn't tell us anything about God or gods, nor does it tell us anything about justice, rights, beauty, love, etc. Positivists argue that these concepts are not observable and therefore we cannot know anything about them. Now what does that mean? When we are born, we are like little scientists. We see, hear, touch, smell and taste different things, and we formulate theories about how the world works based on our observations. For example, if you live in England and you haven't heard of snow before, and one day you see something white falling from the sky, you might conclude that it's actually sugar, because it looks like sugar, tastes like sugar, etc. However, after some time and further observations, you'll come to the conclusion that it's actually water that freezes into a solid state. In this example, you were able to formulate a scientific theory based on your observation and testing. That's what positivism is all about. But before we move on, please support the channel by subscribing. But if you think about it, we have other rules that guide our everyday interactions that are not created by any legislature or codified anywhere. He was arguing that there is a need for a set of rules that regulates our actions and that these rules must be superior to all the other rules that we might come up with on our own. Positivism tries to achieve exactly that. We learn these rules through our socialization and they govern how we interact with each other. One example of these unwritten rules is that we don't eat spaghetti with a fork. And while you might say, what does it matter? There is a proper way of doing things and we generally adhere to them. When we do not follow these rules, people may frown upon us and sometimes harshly criticize us, which shall decide all controversies in the field of morals and manners, which shall be superior to all the individual and local rules which could be otherwise devised for the purpose. Before we answer that question, consider this. How many languages are spoken around the world today? When we think about the laws that regulate our societies, there are two main types that come to mind: criminal law and civil law. So the question is, where do these rules come from and what makes them obligatory? Well, positivism is the theory that says that there is one right way of thinking and that is the scientific method. Now let's go back to Mill's quote at the beginning of this video. Now we're ready to look at the three main points of positivism. However, according to positivists, this is not the only theory about snow. This leads us to the second point, which is that we should only believe in what we can observe. Which brings us to the third and final point of positivism, which is that science is the best way of gaining knowledge. And according to positivists, the scientific method is the best way of knowing things about the world. But it is not just metaphysical statements that are meaningless. Positivists argue that it is possible to replace meaningless statements with meaningful ones. In conclusion, positivism tells us that we should base our beliefs on observations, that there are some beliefs that are based on non-observable things. So that was a very quick introduction to positivism. As always, the references are in the description below.